So about 2 weeks ago, I posted a video how I'm doing a 30-day challenge. And for 30 days, I was going to stick with my fasting protocol of eating once every 72 hours, plus meditating twice a day. And I gave all the rules and regulations around what I'm committing to over the next 30 days about 2 weeks ago. Well, didn't make it, fucked it up. So I will explain why I didn't make it and what I learned. So the initial plan, the 30-day challenge, was to, as I said, stick with my fasting protocol until 30 days had passed or I hit 185.5 pounds on the scale after a feeding day and meditating twice a day. So last week, at about day 11, I think, into the 30-day challenge, I had a little cheat serving. Now, I was allowed to do that. I said in that first video, I'm allowed to have, I'm going crazy, I'm allowed to have a cheat serving, like one little thing of a cheat food, not a big cheat meal. Can't do that. So I went ahead and did that. I'll talk about why I did that in a second. And then the next day I did it again. And then the next day I did it again. Now I didn't cheat much, just a little bit, but I did cheat. Now, within the rules of the 30-day challenge, I said in there, I can twice over the next 30 days flex the day where I can push the feeding day forward or back a day or two if necessary based on events in my life. I'm going to a party, I'm going out with friends or things like that, and I got to eat. And it's not actually within the 72-hour time frame, so I can move it up or down. So within the technical rules of what I promised, I didn't really hardcore violate any of the rules of the 30-day challenge. I didn't, technically. It's a gray area, and that's my point. If it's a gray area, I thought last week, I say, you know what, this is a gray area, then I failed. And because I have something called integrity, which is not something that every internet provider has, I'm not going to mention names, I'm going to have to be honest with you and tell you that I didn't make the 30-day challenge and I failed. Now, did I make progress? Yeah, I am now 5 pounds away from my high school weight, which is kind of insane. I'm at 200 pounds, which I haven't been in my entire life. I'm trying to get to 195, which was my high school weight, and then 185, which is the ideal weight for me, based on my height and all that stuff. And so I made progress, and everything was fine. It was successful for that 10, 11 days I went into it, but didn't actually do it. So why did that happen? Why did I allow myself to go 3 days with these little cheat servings? Well, I may have mentioned this publicly. A lot of you already wear this in my coaching programs. About 2 weeks ago, one of our primary merchant providers, so when you have an online company, really any company, you need to accept credit card charges. That means use a merchant services company. And I was using one merchant service company for pretty much all of my products, plus a backup company that I didn't really like very much. I'm not going to mention names, although later I will. And out of the blue, they canceled us. And they canceled us for a reason that didn't make any sense. They didn't like something on one of my web pages regarding a product that we stopped selling 2 years ago. These merchant companies, especially the big ones, are basically like big banks. Big banks fucking suck. They're idiots. And so they immediately cut us off. And normally, most online companies like me, online information providers, whatever you want to call it in the space I'm in, courses, consulting, things like that, usually sell 1, 2, 3, 4 products. Well, I'm Caleb Jones and I'm a maniac, so I have about 85 products. I have a gigantic, broad product line. And so when you suddenly can't process credit card charges on 85 of your things spread out over 150 websites, it's kind of a problem, and it causes all kinds of chaos. Plus, we have programs like the 90-Day Business Builder VIP program, the Unchained Action Table, various other things where there's recurring payments. That all got screwed up. So everybody on those programs got emails saying, payment failed, you have now been canceled. These are all automated emails we had no control over. Been a mess. And then when you sign up for these new companies, they say, oh yeah, we can do that. And then you sign up these new companies, new merchant companies, they go, oh, we can't now. And you fight them and fight them and fight them. And you're dealing with their tech teams for days and days on end where you still can't process any payments. And then it's Friday and they say, oh, we don't work weekends. So now it's another 2 days. Or if it's a, like last weekend, week before last, that was a 3-day weekend in the United States. So it's a 3-day week. Anyway, so we're at the point now we can process payments again, more or less, but there's very little interactivity between our system and Kartra, so we're not quite done with this chaos. Bottom line, this caused so much chaos in my companies and so much chaos for me personally that I think this is my theory is why I failed when I thought I would succeed in 30 days. My willpower was so tapped out dealing with this bullshit problem day in and day out, all day, all night for weeks on end. Well, we're not making any money and it's causing chaos with our customers and chaos with my bookkeeping and chaos in all these areas of my companies. I think my willpower was tapped out and I just couldn't stick with the fasting and eating once every 72 hours. That requires a level of focus, a level of willpower. It's why it's not something you cannot do. You cannot do long term. It's not a sustainable thing. This fasting thing I'm doing is not sustainable. I'm going to stop in about 3 weeks and I'm never going to do it again. But I think that's what happened. I don't know definitively if that's what happened, but I think that's what happened. Another possibility is that that isn't the reason, is that, and in my own tracking of this stuff, this bears out this pattern. I think probably subconsciously, once every 7 days, I as in my subconscious brain or my fucked up hormones from being overweight for 35 years, needs some sort of cheat day, not a big cheat event, but some sort of cheat thing once every 7 days. I think my body or my brain or my subconscious, not sure, I'm not a psychologist, one of these things need this. And I have found that when I go into 7, 8, 9 days and I haven't had anything yummy, there's a part of me that's screaming its head off and it's very hard to control. So, not what I want. I would like to take a 30-day period and not have any cheat days. That's what I would like to do. Maybe I'm not capable of that, or not capable of that yet, or maybe more accurately, I don't have the willpower for something like that based on my current hormonal patterns. When I say hormonal, I don't mean testosterone, estradiol. I mean things like leptin, ghrelin, things like that, hunger hormones. I don't think I'm able to do it for whatever reason. That could be the other reason, or it could be a combination of the two, because I was on a pretty good tear until this problem occurred. So it could be just that was that problem last week and it won't happen again in the next 30 days. I'd be fine. Or there's something deeper going on. I don't know. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try this again, which, by the way, is what happens when you fail. You get off your ass and you try it again. Let me say that again, because you know who you are. When you fail, you go, okay, that sucks, and then you try it again. You don't do what many of you do, lissigs, beta males, pussies, etc., and say, oh my God, that didn't work. I'm just going to go back to my 9-to-5 job. Or, oh my God, this didn't work. I'm not cut out to start my own business. Or, oh my God, this didn't work. Caleb, online dating doesn't work anymore. Or, oh my God, my wife got mad at me and I don't want to make her mad, so I'm going to go right back to being a pussy. That's not what you do. You proceed. So I'm going to attempt this again. I'm going to do the same thing again, more or less, with some minor differences. So I won't start it today. I will start it tomorrow, just in case I want to do one more little cheat today. This is Sunday. What is today's date? Today is Sunday, July 13th, as I record this video. Starting tomorrow, new 30-day challenge begins for me. And just like this one, I will report back what happens, and I'll be honest with you if I don't make it, just like I was honest with you here. I have to be honest with my audience, because in the era of Instagram and bullshit and snake oil and AI, the currency you have with your audience is authenticity and honesty and integrity. You can't violate that. So by the way, there was a little evil voice 2 days ago saying, well, I didn't technically cheat. I could just keep going and never tell my audience. I had that voice. And I said, no, I can't do that. Can't do it. Then if I do that, what's the point? So starting tomorrow, so that would be July 14th, new 30-day challenge occurs with Caleb, starting with day 1. Okay, I'm going to go 30 days. Same rules as before. You can go back and refer to the original video, which is still up, about the specific rules. However, this time I'm going to allow myself, hang on, let me drink some fucking disgusting salt water. Hang on a sec. I'm going to allow myself a real, honest to goodness cheat meal once every 7 days. I'm going to try to avoid it and try to push that out to 8, 9, 10 days. But that way, if I'm screaming for something and it's been 10 days, I can have a cheat meal. I haven't violated the 30-day challenge. Cheat meal, not cheat day. And as I talked about in my other content, cheat meal would be like cheeseburger and fries. Not cheeseburger, large fries, hot fudge sundae, milkshake, and then later some bagels. That's a cheat. That's too big. Cheat meal within reasons. One of my favorite comments I've heard from a weight loss influencer is, don't eat like an asshole. So I'm not going to eat like an asshole. But once every 7 days, I'm allowed myself to do that. I will allow myself to do that over the next 30 days. 30-day challenge will go for 30 days or until I weigh 185.5 or less on the scale the morning after an eating day. Then I can end it prematurely, which is the hope here. I would like to start eating like a normal human being. You have no idea how badly I want this. Holy shit. But you got to feel pain to get results, and this is my pain. 30 days of pain. I'm going to do this again. Also, last time I also included meditating twice a day. I have that kind of dialed now. I'm not going to include that 30-day challenge. I'm going to do that. There are some other things I'm doing over the next 30 days. I don't know what's wrong with my throat besides this, but what I'm publicly committing to you guys as accountability for me. Although, again, like I said before, I'm outcome independent. I really don't care. I mean, if I really gave a shit, I would probably lie and say, oh, no, I did the 30-day challenge. I didn't fuck it up. Outcome independence helps a lot. So anyway, this, in terms of the public 30-day challenge for me, it's going to be eat within a 1-hour eating window every 72 hours. That's every third day, minus the parameters I gave in the first video where I can move the day up twice. If I'm going crazy, I can have a little cheat thing. But now that I have a cheat option, a cheat out once every 7 to 10 days or so, I won't need to do that. I would like to go for 30 days without cheating at all. I would like to do that. Again, I don't think I have that ability or that level of willpower reservoir based on everything I'm working on in my life in terms of losing weight and scaling my companies to hit some big goals for next April. A lot of movement on that last 2 weeks. So I'm very, very happy about that. But everything else combined, there's only so much willpower and energy you have in a given day. And I think last week I exceeded it. Mainly because of that problem. Now, something else about that problem, by the way. Alpha Male 2.0 is about, and Unchained CEO to a degree, is about redundancy. Okay? So it is about everything I talk about. You don't have one business, you have 2 to 4 small businesses. You don't have one income stream, you have several income streams. You don't rely on one collapsing Western country for everything you do, you dumb Americans. You rely on 4 or 5 or 6. That's why it's called 5 flags. Non-monogamy. You don't rely on one woman to be everything perfectly for the rest of your life. That's not going to fucking work. Several women, 2 or more. Redundancy. And where I wasn't redundant, the one area of my life, also with investing, you have diversified investments. I have redundancy upon redundancy upon redundancy all over my life. Where I didn't have it was in my payment processors. I did have 2, but the backup wasn't really meant to be a backup and it was kind of shitty. So now I had one payment processor doing everything plus a weak backup. That's what I had before. Now, since this problem, I have no less than 6 payment processors. I'm working on another 2, so I will total of 8. And instead of all my products and all my services going to one processor, we're now going to give 20% to one, 20% to another, 1/5. We're spread out over 3 or 4 or 5 of them. So that way, if this ever happens again, and one of these payment processors turn into assholes, which is what payment processors do. This is not unusual, by the way. A lot of my buddies who make what I make or more in the same industries, when I told them about this, they go, oh yeah, that happened to me last year. Oh yeah, that happened to us 2 years ago. Oh yeah, it's very normal. So this is a very normal thing that happens as you scale a company. If this ever happens again, if any one of these payment processors suddenly say, we're not working with you anymore, and we're not going to tell you why, I've taken screenshots. This will make a good story later when this is all behind me. Anyway, what'll happen in the future is it'll only affect 1/4, 1/3 of my products at the most. Then we're gonna have SOPs in place to immediately pivot to one of our other processors so we have less than 24 hours of downtime. It's gonna be great. So this problem was a serious problem, but the good news is it will never, ever, ever, ever happen again. I'm very happy about this. So there you go. That's another lesson to learn is redundancy. You cannot ever rely on one of anything. One country, one job, one business, one woman. It doesn't matter. You cannot rely long. Short term, you can. 57 years, no, that's not how the world works. I'm very sorry. You need redundancy on these things. And I am overly redundant in every area of my life, except I wasn't in this one area. Well, live and learn. Or should I say scale and learn. So as of the 14th, this will be day 1 of my new 30-day challenge. And I will report back in 30 days or sooner, hopefully not sooner, unless I hit that 185 goal by then. I mean, I might. Then, thank God, I get back to eating normal. And I'm telling you, this has been a fucking nightmare because, like in my personal life, people say, hey, you want to go out on Wednesday? And then they like, well, can you eat that day? Is that an eating day for you? I'm like, oh, fucking hell. It's a nightmare. But, as I've talked about many times, pain and suffering to some degree, is required to achieve something great. And the amount of weight I've had to lose was a great amount. It wasn't 100 pounds, but it was a lot, especially when you had it for 35 years. Pain and suffering is required. I'm happy to pay it temporarily, not the rest of my life. And this is a big goal for me in terms of next April when I move into the next phase of my life, self-actualization phase. And as I've said many times, you cannot be a self-actualized man or a self-actualized person if you're overweight. How can you be the best man you can be if you're overweight? No, that doesn't work. So I don't have the option of being overweight anymore. So that's it. I'll give you an update soon. This has been a learning experience, but we're almost done with this. This phase of the weight loss part of my life will be done in the next few weeks. And then, as Penn Jillette has said, then the hardest part begins. You can never gain the weight back for the rest of your life. And that'll be the next segment I get into, is once I get down to 185 pounds or so, I will have to make sure that I don't gain the weight back. I could gain back 3 or 4 pounds, that's fine, but nothing more than that for the rest of my life. And I'm going to live it, barring the 2% rule, I'm going to live at least another 50 years. I'm only 53. I'm going to easily make it into my 90s, easily with my genetics and all the anti-aging stuff I do. That's easy. So that's a long time to not gain a bunch of weight back. So that'll be the next phase. But thankfully, it's a little easier than losing the weight. I want to fast like this, at least not this aggressively ever again. So there you go. I'll let you know. Bye.